I died because a vending machine fired a candy gem straight into my throat. In my next life, 240 students laughed while the Royal Academy called me a jeweler and canceled my scholarship. The laughter rolled down the marble steps of the Awakening Hall. It was loud enough to make the blue flames in the wall lamps shake. I stood beneath the measuring crystal with one hand on a workbench and watched the golden letters fade from the wall behind me. They had shown my name for 3 short breaths. The crystal announced my name, then declared that my mana capacity was 12, my physical strength was 9, and my awakened class was a rank F production jeweler. The letters vanished, but the word jeweler remained in the mouths of the crowd. A jeweler, someone repeated. He trained with the combat students for 6 years. Maybe he can defeat a monster by asking it to marry him. That joke earned the biggest laugh. It was simple, cruel, and apparently worth repeating 4 times. Instructor Hadron did not laugh. That made what he did worse. He lifted my scholarship badge from the table and broke its wax seal in front of everyone. Combat scholarships are reserved for combat classes, he said. Your weekly allowance of 20 silver is canceled. Your dormitory place expires tonight. Report to the ornament workshop tomorrow morning. I looked at the 2 halves of the seal. In my first life, I had repaired watches in a narrow shop. Tiny gears had taught me that anger was just movement without direction. I had remembered that lesson after being born in this world. What about the practical test? I asked. Hadron glanced at the practice materials. Every new student was supposed to make or summon 1 class item. The item would be tested before the entire year. You may complete it, he said. It will not change the regulations. Kroven walked out of the first row before I could choose a material. His red uniform marked him as the highest-ranked fire student. His father financed one of the academy arenas, and Kroven wore that fact like a second uniform. He picked up the last clear ruby from the tray. This one is mine, he said. You are not a jeweler, I replied. No, I am useful. The crowd laughed again. Kroven needed to finish first in our year to keep a military contract promised to his family. I understood why he wanted every possible advantage. I did not understand why he needed 240 witnesses while taking 1 from me. Hadron saw him pocket the ruby. He said nothing. Only 1 stone remained in the discard box. It was a cloudy red gem with a crack through its center. Pelin, the academy appraiser, had marked it as worth 1 copper. A button cost 2. I placed the stone in a strip of brass and bent the metal around it with a pair of pliers. My class skill warmed my fingertips, but nothing miraculous happened. After 10 minutes, I had made an ugly practice ring. Kroven held it up between 2 fingers. Be careful, he told the audience. This may be the legendary weapon that makes fingers slightly prettier. He put the ring on a stone block. Then he pointed 1 finger. Flame lance. A line of orange fire crossed the platform. The brass melted. The cloudy ruby split with a sharp click and flew into my palm. For 1 instant, the flame disappeared inside it. I felt the stone pulse like a small hot heart. No one else noticed. They were watching the score crystal above the block. 58 points, Pelin announced. Excellent control. The crowd cheered Kroven. He bowed as if he had killed a dragon instead of a ring worth 1 copper. Hadron marked my practical item as destroyed and gave me a score of 0. My combat rank fell from 187 to unlisted. My allowance fell from 20 silver a week to nothing. My property consisted of 3 copper coins, a melted strip of brass, and half a broken ruby. I closed my fingers around the warm stone. It was more than I had owned 10 minutes earlier. By sunset, the dormitory keeper had placed my blanket and spare shirt outside. I carried them to the old ornament workshop behind the kitchens. The building smelled of metal dust, lamp oil, and onions from the cooks next door. There was a bench, a stool with 3 legs, and enough empty floor for a thin blanket. I spent my final copper coin on a bowl of rice and watched darkness fill the dirty windows. At midnight, the broken ruby spoke. It did not use a human voice. The words appeared directly in my thoughts, clean and cold. The public class was only a shell. A hidden lineage had been found. Keeper of skills, king of gems, master of magical cores. I waited for more. The system gave me 1 rule. A gemstone I personally prepared could remember 1 imprint that passed through it. A skill, a spell, or a single measured trait could become that imprint. Anyone wearing the stone could use what it remembered. That was all. In this world, a skill belonged to 1 soul. Weapons could increase force, robes could reduce mana cost. No object could give a class skill to someone who had never learned it. My broken ruby had ignored that law. Croven's flame lance had passed through the stone when he destroyed the ring. The ruby remembered it. I set the two pieces beneath a lamp. My jeweler skill let me feel the crack, the cloudy layers, and the thin line of fire trapped inside. The stone could reproduce 35% of the original spell. It had enough integrity for 3 uses. Each use would cost the wearer 8 mana. On the 4th, it would break. There was no free power. There was only stored power, limited by material, mana, and craft. That was enough to make me smile. I owned one skill that was not mine. The workshop door opened behind me. I covered the ruby with my hand and turned. Leora stood in the doorway. She wore a gray training coat instead of royal silk, but no coat could hide the small silver crown embroidered at her collar. She was the king's only daughter and the Academy's most discussed disappointment. Her awakened class was Swordswoman, not Flame Princess, not Holy Commander, just Swordswoman. Croven had scored 58 that morning. Leora had scored 11. "I saw your lamp," she said. "The dormitory keeper told me you were sleeping here. He has a talent for military intelligence." She looked at the stool. "You have 1 chair with 3 legs. Then I have 3 more legs than my table." Her mouth moved. It took me a moment to realize she was trying not to laugh. She placed a paper bag on the bench. Inside were 2 warm buns filled with chopped beef and onion. "I came to return this," she said. She put my broken scholarship badge beside the food. I had not noticed her pick it up. "The seal is still broken," I said. "Yes?" "Then it has no value. Neither did your ruby." Her eyes moved to my closed hand. I considered lying. Then I remembered that she had been the only person in the hall who had not laughed. "How much mana do you have?" I asked. 31. "How much would you risk to set a training record?" "All of it." "Wrong answer. 8. I worked for another hour. I filed the melted brass away and cut a narrow channel around the largest ruby fragment. The stone was too damaged for a normal setting, so I wrapped it in copper wire and fixed it to a plain iron ring. Leora watched without interrupting. When I finished, the ring looked like an angry red berry trapped in a cage. "It is ugly," she said. "That is part of its defense." We went to the abandoned practice yard behind the workshop. Only 1 scoring dummy still worked. Rain had swollen its wooden body and moss covered one shoulder. Leora drew her training sword. Her first strike produced 11 points, exactly as it had that morning. She stared at the number and tightened her jaw. I gave her the ring. "Put it on your left hand. When you cut, imagine fire moving from the ring into the blade. Do not force it. The gem already knows the shape." "I have no fire affinity." "The ruby does?" She looked at me. "Zevik, equipment cannot remember a class skill." "Tell the equipment." She put on the ring. The cracked ruby glowed. Leora swung. Fire wrapped around the steel and roared across the yard. The dummy split from shoulder to waist. Its wet body hissed like a giant kettle with anger problems. The score crystal flashed 72. Leora did not move. The night guards on the far wall did. One dropped his lantern. The other shouted for water, then realized the dummy was already wet. 72, Leora whispered. "The ring has 2 uses left." "I used Flame Lance. 35% of it." "I do not have that skill." "The ring does." She turned toward me, slowly. The fire reflected in her eyes, but there was no fear there. "They were wrong about you," she said. "That was the first time anyone in this world looked at me and saw more than my class." The 2 guards ran closer. Within 5 minutes, 6 kitchen workers had joined them. Within 10, Palin arrived in his night robe with 1 boot and 1 slipper. By the time he tested the ruined dummy, 23 people stood around it. Palin checked the crystal 3 times. "The recorded score is 72, he said. "Who cast the fire spell?" Leora raised the ring. The crowd became silent. 1 cook crossed herself. Another leaned toward her friend and whispered that the useless jeweler had hidden a fire mage inside a berry. Palin demanded a public retest at dawn. News traveled faster than sleep. When the central arena opened, almost the entire first year was waiting. Names covered the announcement board. Someone had written that Leora had secretly awakened a 2nd class. Someone else claimed I had sold my soul for a ruby. A 3rd message offered 3 silver for the ring. I erased that message and wrote 5. Croven arrived with Hadron. He took 1 look at Leora's ring and laughed. "That piece of scrap?" he said. "Pauline must have tested the dummy after drinking." Pauline's face tightened. He had come wearing 2 matching boots this time, which seemed to give him courage. "The test was valid," he said. "Then repeat it." Hadron looked at me. If this is a trick, Zevik, you will be expelled from every royal workshop. If it is not, he paused. Leora answered for him. Then my score enters the combat ranking, and Zevik receives the standard creator's reward. Students turn toward Hadran. He could refuse me in a closed office. Refusing the princess before 240 witnesses was harder. Agreed, he said. Kroven stepped to the scoring wall first. Flame Lance! His attack hit the target with a bright explosion. The score rose to 59. The fire students cheered. Kroven looked pleased. He had improved by 1 point since yesterday. Leora walked forward. I checked the copper setting. One side had softened. The ruby had 2 uses, but the second might widen the crack. One clean strike, I said. She nodded. Kroven folded his arms. Try not to burn your glove, your highness. Leora drew her sword. The ruby flashed. Flame covered the blade, gathered along the edge, and struck the center of the target. The scoring wall shook. 74 appeared above it. For 2 full breaths, no one spoke. Then the arena became louder than the awakening hall had been. The sword students shouted Leora's name. The production students climbed onto their benches. Even the fire students stared at Kroven's hands as if they had personally betrayed him. His score of 59 remained beside Leora's 74. The numbers were large, gold, and impossible to argue with. She copied my spell, Kroven said. No, I replied. The ring copied it when you broke my work. The laughter changed direction. Someone in the back shouted, Do it again, Kroven! Maybe destroy his shoes next. Another student asked whether my next necklace could store intelligence. Kroven's face turned to the same color as the ruby. His reason for taking the clear stone had been practical. His decision to humiliate me had not. Now every witness understood the difference. Hedron ordered silence 3 times. The crowd ignored the first 2. Palin removed the ring with padded tongs. He tested it for hidden runes, external mana, and illusion residue. He found none. When he announced that Leora had supplied all 8 mana herself, the reaction became even louder. The combat board restored my name at provisional rank 200. The academy paid me 5 silver for creating equipment that exceeded 50 points. My workshop access was extended for 3 days. My dormitory remained cancelled, but the ornament workshop now had a legal occupant instead of a trespasser. In 1 morning, my money had risen from nothing to 5 silver. My status had risen from unlisted to provisional combat support. My strength still measured 9, and my mana still measured 12, but I had proven I could place a class skill on another person's hand. More important, 240 people had seen it. By noon, the announcement board held 17 requests for rings. The smallest offer was 1 gold. The largest was 20. None of those students understood that the ruby had 1 safe use left. I did. I refused every offer. That evening, Leora found me at a street stall near the academy wall. I spent 2 silver on dinner for both of us. The old cook filled deep bowls with dark beef broth, springy noodles, thin slices of meat, green onion, and eggs with soft golden centers. Steam warmed my face. After a day filled with fire, shouting, and people trying to buy my hands, the quiet clink of chopsticks felt expensive. Leora tasted the broth and closed her eyes. The palace cooks would declare war on this stall, she said. Because it is better? Because 1 bowl costs 1 silver and they charge my father 40. I pushed half my beef toward her. She pushed 1 egg toward me. It was the first fair trade I had made all day. Why did you refuse 20 gold? She asked. Because the ring is not safe enough to sell. Kroven would have taken the money. Kroven attacked jewelry to impress a crowd. I do not use him as a financial model. She laughed hard enough to cough on a noodle. When we returned to the academy, every bell began ringing at once. Students poured from the dormitories. Guards ran towards the main hall. A red message burned across the public scoring wall. An illegal duplication of a soul-bound skill had been detected. The academy had until sunset the next day to surrender the object and its creator. Below the warning, the Royal Skill Registry had written my name. The next morning, 37 students offered to help surrender me before breakfast. Most of them called it civic duty. 6 asked whether they could keep the ring afterward. I stood beneath the red warning in the central hall while Dean Austral read the registry order. He was a narrow man with white hair and the permanent expression of someone who had tasted bad milk but was too polite to mention it. The order is automatic, he told the gathered students. It was produced by the National Detection Array. No inspector has examined the item yet. Hedron stood beside him. The law is clear. Unregistered soul transfer is forbidden. No soul was transferred, I said. Kroven pushed through the front row. You copied my flame lance. Your soul appears to be standing in front of me and speaking too much. The production students laughed first. The fire students tried not to. Croven noticed both groups. Ostrel raised one hand. The Academy may delay surrender until sunset if Zevik enters the item in today's team qualification, he said. Official combat equipment is tested under public conditions. If the ring passes, it receives a temporary classification. If it fails, the Academy complies with the order. The team qualification was the reason most first-year students had trained since childhood. The best 64 teams entered the Academy tournament. The lowest 32 lost combat funding for the season. I had no team. I also had 3 silver, 1 damaged ring, and less than 10 hours. I accept, I said. Croven smiled. He knew the registration rules. A team required 5 awakened members. Every member had to carry equipment approved for their class. A jeweler could join as production support, but only if 4 combat students signed for him. No ranked student would risk expulsion for a man named in a registry warning. The team board proved him right. I asked 11 students before breakfast. 7 refused politely. 3 walked away when they saw Hadron watching. The last asked for 20 gold in advance. At the material office, I found a second problem. Every ruby, garnet, and red spinel had been purchased before dawn. The clerk showed me the receipt. Croven had spent 40 gold to empty the Academy stock. That was more than a minor act of spite. His family's contract required him to finish within the top 10. If transferable skills existed, his rare fire class became less valuable. He was not only protecting his pride, he was protecting a future someone else had already priced for him. I understood his motive. I still planned to make the investment painful. Looking for pretty rocks? A voice asked from inside the return bin. A girl climbed out of it. Savina was small, quick, and dressed in a scout uniform with more hidden pockets than visible cloth. Her awakened class was Finder. The Academy called it a support class. The City Guard called it a reason to check their locks twice. She placed a cloudy blue sapphire on the counter. "Found this in the old fountain drain," she said. "The office rejected it because of the dark stripe." The clerk narrowed his eyes. That stone was not in the return bin. I was. Why? I was returning myself. He stared at her. She stared back. I bought the sapphire for 2 silver before their conversation could become a legal case. Savannah followed me outside. "You spent 2/3 of your fortune on a stone that cannot hold elemental mana," she said. "It does not need to. What does it hold?" "I will know after I cut it." "Good. I like plans built on confidence and missing information." She wanted a place on my team. Her current group had removed her after learning that Finder offered no direct attack. I asked her combat score. 8. Leora began with 11. Now she has an illegal fire ring. Temporarily classified. That sounds much safer. We found Leora outside the sword hall. She had already signed my team form. Beside her stood Tobin, a broad young man wearing a kitchen apron over a healer's coat. Tobin had awakened the skill Minor Mend. It restored 6 health for 5 mana. His total mana was 19. In a serious fight, he could heal 3 times and then become an encouraging spectator. He also made the beef noodles we had eaten the night before. "The princess said you need a 5th member," he told me. "You are the 4th. I counted you. The rules may not." A metal hammer struck the wall beside my head. It sank halfway into the wood. "They will count him," Braska said. She walked toward us with black hair tied behind her neck and soot across one cheek. Her class was Smith. Her strength measured 26, higher than most shield fighters, but she had been rejected by 3 teams because her combat skill only repaired metal. "Your copper setting softened after 2 casts," she told me. "The next one will send the ruby through the wearer's finger." Leora looked at her hand. "You could have told me yesterday," she said. "Yesterday, I expected the ring to do nothing." Braska pulled her hammer from the wall. "Today, it insulted my profession in front of the whole academy. I want to fix it." My team now contained a jeweler, an ordinary swordswoman, a finder, a weak healer, and an angry smith. Students passing the courtyard stopped to read our names. One asked whether the qualification allowed kitchen tools. Another placed a bet that we would last 40 seconds. Savina took that bet. We spent our final silver renting a corner of Braska's forge. I cut the blue sapphire while she made a narrow wrist guard. The dark stripe ran through the gem like smoke. It blocked elemental mana, but when I touched it with my class skill, I felt a different kind of space. The sapphire was waiting for movement. I asked Leora to place 2 fingers on it and run through a basic footwork pattern. Her agility measured 18. As she moved, a pale thread gathered inside the stone. The system spoke once. A measured trait was also an imprint. The sapphire remembered 7 points of agility. It could lend them to a wearer for 1 minute. The activation cost was 4 mana. Its integrity allowed 5 uses. Leora stopped moving and checked the measuring crystal. Her agility still measured 18. The stone had copied the shape of her speed without taking it from her. Braska stared at the sapphire. "You just put 7 points of a person inside a rock," she said. "Only the pattern." That explanation made it worse. Savannah held out her wrist. "Make me faster." Braska fitted the sapphire into the guard. The steel prongs locked with a clean snap. Savannah activated it. She vanished from beside the bench and hit the opposite wall before anyone could warn her. A rack of pans fell over her with a sound like an armored cupboard losing an argument. Tobin pulled one pan off her head. "How fast did that feel?" he asked. "Fast enough to regret immediately." The forge measuring line showed that she had crossed 20 paces in less than 3 seconds. Her normal time was 5. 6 apprentices had witnessed it through the open door. Within minutes, they brought friends. By noon, more than 80 students filled the lane outside Braska's forge. They watched Savannah repeat the run. They watched the sapphire glow. They watched her stop before the wall on her second attempt. That last achievement received the most applause. The betting board changed. Our expected survival time rose from 40 seconds to 2 minutes. The odds of qualification moved from 100 against 1 to 30 against 1. Croven arrived before our third test. He saw the crowd, the wrist guard, and the blue light around Savannah's boots. "A speed charm," he said. "Those have existed for centuries." Palin stepped out of the forge. He had tested the guard twice. "A speed charm improves natural movement by a percentage," the appraiser said. "This adds exactly 7 measured points. The wearer does not possess the original trait." Croven looked at Leora. "You gave the thief your agility?" Leora tapped the measuring crystal. It still showed 18. The students around him began whispering. Croven had spent 40 gold blocking firestones. I had used a rejected sapphire worth 2 silver. Someone asked if he planned to buy every blue object in the kingdom next. His jaw tightened. "You still need to survive the qualification," he said. "My team requested your lane." That was the first good decision he made all day. The public qualification began in the lower arena at mid-afternoon. 600 students and citizens packed the stands. The course held 4 teams at once. Each team had to seize 3 metal emblems from the center, carry them through a field of training constructs, and place them in a tower. A team qualified by finishing within 10 minutes or defeating every opposing member. Croven's group entered in red armor. His 4 partners were ranked combat students. Their combined score was 270. Our combined score was 54. The board displayed both numbers. The crowd laughed, but not as loudly as the day before. 80 people had seen the sapphire. I carried no weapon. Braska had reinforced the broken ruby ring with a steel cage, but its final use remained dangerous. I gave it to Leora. Savannah wore the sapphire guard. Tobin held a wooden staff. Braska carried her hammer and 3 spare settings on her belt. "What is the plan?" Tobin asked. "We let Croven act like Croven." The horn sounded. Croven ignored the emblems and attacked us. His flame lance crossed the course before the first construct activated. Leora raised her sword, but I pulled her aside. The spell struck a stone pillar and sprayed fire over the lane. The audience shouted. Hadron did not stop the match. Direct attacks were legal. Croven's shield fighter charged Braska. His spear fighter moved toward Tobin. Their scout went for the emblems. Everything happened as expected. "Now," I said. Savannah activated the sapphire. Her agility rose by 7. She crossed the center before Croven's scout reached the first emblem. She took all 3, slid beneath a construct, and threw them across the lane. Braska struck them in midair. Her hammer sent the metal emblems flying toward our tower like very expensive nails. The first dropped into the slot. The board showed one. The crowd roared. The second struck the tower rim and bounced. Tobin caught it against his stomach, made a sound like a stepped-on bellows, and fell backward through the scoring gate. The board showed 2. Our healer had scored while lying on the ground. Half the audience stood up. Croven turned away from Leora and aimed at Savannah. That was what I had been waiting for. "Use the ring," I told Leora. The cracked ruby gave its final pulse. She cut through Croven's flame lance at an angle. The stored copy wrapped around her blade. His fresh spell fed it. Fire climbed higher, changed from orange to white, and crashed into the training constructs between them. 5 constructs fell. The score crystal registered 91 points. The ruby shattered. One fragment cut Leora's glove, but Braska's steel cage held the rest. The price of that attack was 1 stone, 40 gold of Croven's blocked inventory, and 8 of Leora's mana. Croven stared at the empty ring. You used my spell again. You supplied the second half, I said. The crowd laughed so loudly that he heard every word. Savannah's 1 minute of speed ended. She tossed the final emblem toward me. Croven saw it and moved between us. His strength measured 24. Mine measured 9. I did not try to fight him. I stepped aside. The emblem passed over my shoulder and hit Braska's hammer. She struck it with both hands. The metal disc hit Croven's shield, lifted him from his feet, and carried him backward into the tower slot. The emblem entered first. Croven followed headfirst and became stuck at the waist. The board showed 3 emblems and a completion time of 2 minutes and 16 seconds. For a moment, the only part of Croven visible to the audience was his kicking legs. Then 600 witnesses began chanting our team name. We did not have one, so they chanted Jewelers. Braska objected. No one could hear her. Our odds changed from 30 against 1 to even. Our academy team rank rose from unlisted to 32. The qualification prize was 12 gold divided among 5 members. Leora refused her share. Braska did not. Sivana collected her earlier bet before the arena staff finished pulling Croven out of the tower. Palin publicly classified the Sapphire Guard as experimental support equipment. The red registry warning faded from the central wall. In its place appeared a yellow notice stating that my case required human review. The crowd treated that as a victory. Hadron did not. At sunset, we returned to Braska's forge with 12 gold, 2 undamaged sapphire uses, 3 bent settings, and a reputation large enough to block the street. Braska's mother brought us meat pies with crisp brown crusts. Steam escaped when I broke mine open. The filling held beef, black pepper, onion, and thick gravy. There were potatoes crushed with butter and salt, pickled cabbage, and a pot of sweet tea strong enough to wake a dead guard. Tobin ate 3 pies. Savannah hid a 4th in her coat. Braska's mother placed another one in front of her without comment. Leora sat beside me near the forge fire. Yesterday, you had 1 broken stone, she said. Today I have half a sapphire. And 12 gold. 10 after materials and shares. And 32nd place, temporarily. She touched the cut in her glove where the ruby fragment had struck. You always subtract the cost first. That keeps me alive. It may also keep you lonely. I looked at the crowded table, the missing pie in Savannah's coat, and Tobin asking whether gravy counted as a healing potion. The numbers are changing, I said. Leora smiled. The forge doors slammed open. Hadron entered with 12 academy guards. He carried a black iron seal from the Royal Skill Registry. By emergency authority, he announced, this workshop and every item inside it are confiscated. Zevik is suspended for the theft and duplication of human soul fragments. The guards lowered their spears. The sapphire on our table began glowing in answer to the seal. The black seal tried to erase the sapphire's memory, and the sapphire tried to bite it. Blue light jumped from the table to Hadran's hand. He dropped the seal with a curse. It hit the floor, spun twice, and burned a neat hole through his boot. No one laughed at first. Then Savannah pointed at the smoke rising around his ankle. The registry has classified your foot as illegal, she said. Braska's apprentices broke. Their laughter filled the forge. 2 guards covered their mouths. Even Captain Ressa, who commanded the Academy Guard, looked at the ceiling for several seconds. Hadran kicked off the burning boot and ordered our arrest. Ressa did not move. The seal authorizes confiscation of objects, not students. Prove your accusation at a hearing. He ordered every gemstone placed in a lead case. Braska demanded receipts. Sivina ate the pie in her pocket before anyone could classify it as evidence. The workshop was sealed. By sunrise, drawings of Hadran's smoking foot covered the public board. The hearing began in the central arena. Austral linked the hearing to the city viewing stones. 2,000 people filled the academy seats and thousands more watched outside. The registry had accused me publicly. Austral said the answer would be public as well. I stood at one table with Leora, Braska, Savannah, and Tobin. Hadran stood at the other with the lead evidence case. Pelin examined each stone before the crowd. The broken ruby was gone. The sapphire held 7 points of copied agility. Leora still possessed her original 18. Sivana's natural agility remained 16. No fragment was missing from either soul. Then explain the reaction to the registry seal, Hadran demanded. Pelin held up the black iron disc. The seal contains a suppression spell designed to wipe unlicensed enchantments, he said. The sapphire resisted because its imprint behaves like a class skill, not an enchantment. A low sound moved through the stands. Hadron seized on it. Exactly. An object that behaves like a soul is a threat. A thief could wear a guard strength. A murderer could copy healing from a priest. A child could activate a spell that tears off his own arm. The arena became quiet. He was not wrong. That made him more dangerous than Krovan. Hadron wanted to protect a system, and systems could justify almost anything if the danger sounded large enough. Every sword can be carried by a murderer, I said. We regulate the user and test the weapon. We do not accuse the blacksmith of storing violence. Braska nodded firmly. Hadron opened the evidence ledger. Your first ring shattered after 3 uses. It was made from a stone worth 1 copper and metal Krovan had melted. Laughter rippled through the arena. Krovan sat with the fire students. He slid lower in his seat. Hadron continued. The fragment cut Princess Leora's hand. Her glove, I corrected. Braska's setting contained every fragment. You cannot guarantee the next item will be safe. No creator can guarantee that without testing it. Then test it. The speed of his answer told me he had prepared the challenge. Hadron placed a red crystal on the table. It showed the shape of an underground arena and 1 heavy construct standing at its center. The Iron Maw Trial, he announced. Complete it with your experimental equipment. Every member will wear a health seal. If any person falls below 10 health, the trial ends and all items are surrendered. Students in the stands began talking at once. The Iron Maw was a rank C construct. Second-year combat teams used it for promotion. First-year qualification trials used rank D targets with half its armor. Ostrel frowned. That exceeds their present ranking. They claim to have created equipment that changes the laws of awakening, Hadron said. A national threat requires a national standard. He had placed me in a narrow box. Refusing made the stones look unsafe. Accepting put 5 weak students against a machine designed to break armored teams. I looked at the viewing crystals, the packed stands, and the yellow registry notice above them. We accept on 3 conditions, I said. Hadron's eyes narrowed. Palin verifies every item, Captain Ressa controls the emergency barrier, and when we succeed, you personally return the workshop key and announce the classification. The crowd approved of the 3rd condition. Hadron waited until the noise faded. Agreed. We had 6 hours to prepare. Our Sapphire had 2 safe activations left. The Ruby was dust. Braska's hammer was strong enough to dent the construct, but not fast enough to hit its moving core. Tobin could heal 18 health before exhausting his mana. We needed a new stone. Every gem office refused us. No clerk wanted a registry investigation. Savannah searched the old classrooms and returned with 9 copper, a brass button, and no gemstone. Leora removed a thin chain from beneath her collar. A small green emerald hung from it. My mother gave me this, she said. The gem was clear, deep green, and almost flawless. Palin valued it at 25 gold. No, I said. You have not heard my suggestion. You are going to suggest cutting a family gift to copy Tobin's healing. Yes. Then no. You used your last ruby to protect me yesterday. It was worth 1 copper. It was all you had. The forge became quiet. Braska suddenly found the wall fascinating. Sivana studied her brass button. Tobin opened the oven and looked inside even though nothing was baking. Leora placed the emerald in my palm. I am not paying a debt, she said. I am investing in the person who saw value in my class before anyone else did. I looked down at the stone. The numbers were simple. We had 10 gold. The emerald was worth 25. Refusing protected the material and guaranteed the loss of everything else. I will cut only the lower edge, I said. The chain remains intact. Agreed. Braska released a breath. Good. I was about to lock both of you in the tool closet until you became reasonable. We worked in a borrowed stable because the forge remained sealed. The horses watched me cut the emerald while Savina guarded her sleeves. Tobin pressed the emerald between his palms and used minor mend on a cut across my thumb. Warm green light passed through the stone. The imprint settled inside it. The emerald could reproduce his exact skill. 6 health for 5 mana. Unlike the ruby, it had enough integrity for 30 uses. Braska built it into a flat necklace with a wide silver back. She added 5 small marks around the rim, 1 for each member of our team. They were only identification marks. None held magic. We tested the necklace on bruises from training. Leora wore it first. She had no healing class, but the gem guided her mana into the remembered shape. Her first cast restored 6 health to Tobin. 3 stable workers saw it. By the 10th cast, 40 spectators crowded outside. By the 20th, Pelin had arrived. Every result was the same. 6 health, 5 mana. Tobin kept his skill. The stone grew warmer with each activation. I felt something gathering inside it, but I did not understand what. At the 29th cast, the emerald pulsed once and became still. Pelin recorded every number. The witnesses carried them back to the arena. By the time we entered the Iron Maw chamber, the betting board had moved from 50 against us to 12 against us. Hadron looked annoyed by the improvement. The chamber lay beneath the arena. The audience watched through 6 giant crystals. Ressa fixed health seals to our shoulders. Mine showed 38. Leora's showed 62. Braska's showed 74. Sivana's showed 41. Tobin's showed 49. Our combined health was 264. The Iron Maw had 800 armor, 4 rotating arms, and a crystal core behind a steel jaw. It looked like a safe that had grown legs and learned to hate students. The trial horn sounded. The construct hit Braska first. She blocked one arm with her hammer. A second struck her side and threw her across the chamber. Her health fell from 74 to 43. The audience gasped through the viewing link. Tobin used Minor Mend. Braska rose to 49. He had 14 mana left. Savannah activated the Sapphire Guard. Her agility rose by 7. She ran behind the construct and searched for the core release. An iron arm followed her, tore through a pillar, and missed her by the width of one finger. Leora attacked the front joint. Without the ruby, her sword produced only 12 damage. The Iron Maw's armor dropped from 800 to 788. At that speed, we needed 66 more clean strikes. We had survived 11 seconds. "Left knee!" I shouted. Braska struck the joint. Leora cut the exposed cable. The construct tilted. Sivana climbed its back and found a lock beneath the upper plate. 3 pins, she called. "I need 20 seconds. "You have 10, Braska said. The Iron Maw opened its steel jaw. A red sphere formed inside. Hadron had not mentioned a mana cannon. Pelin's voice came through the viewing crystal. "That function is not listed in the current trial record." The audience erupted. Hadron answered from the control platform. "The construct is an older model. Continue the test." The cannon fired. I pushed Tobin down. Red force hit my shoulder and threw us both into the wall. My health fell from 38 to 12. Tobin's fell to 21. The emergency barrier did not activate. We were above 10. The crowd counted my remaining health. 12. 12. 12. Tobin healed me once. My health rose to 18. His mana fell to 9. The Iron Maw caught Leora with the back of one arm. She rolled across the floor. Her health fell to 27. Braska blocked another strike and dropped to 16. Savannah removed the first pin. The Sapphire's minute ended. Her speed vanished while she stood on the construct's back. An iron arm caught her and slammed her into the floor. Her health fell from 41 to 11. The chamber went silent. One more point of damage would end the trial. Tobin ran toward her. The construct's jaw opened again. He had enough mana for one heal. If he used it on Savannah, Braska remained at 16, Leora at 27, and I remained at 18. The next cannon would end us. I took the emerald necklace from him. "Zevik, you have 12 mana," he said. 7 after this. I activated Minor Mend for the 30th time. The emerald cracked. For a fraction of a second, I thought we had lost. Then 5 green marks appeared around the gem. The system spoke inside my mind. An imprint could gain mastery because the gemstone had become its owner. Minor Mend had been used by 5 different souls. It had evolved into shared mend. Green light expanded from the necklace. It passed through Savannah, Braska, Leora, Tobin, and me. Savannah rose from 11 health to 41. Braska rose from 16 to 46. Leora rose from 27 to 57. Tobin rose from 21 to 49. I rose from 18 to 38. One cast restored 148 health. The audience saw every number change at once. The sound that came through the viewing crystals shook dust from the chamber ceiling. Hadron shouted for the trial to stop. No one listened. Savannah activated the sapphire for its final safe use. Her agility rose by 7 again. She ran up the Iron Maw's arm, removed the second pin, and jumped over its open jaw. Braska drove her hammer into the damaged knee. Leora used the hammerhead as a step. She leaped to the upper plate and cut the third pin. The core cover opened. I had 7 mana and no attack skill. I did have a jeweler's sense for cracks. The core was a red crystal held by 4 metal claws. One claw had a flaw thinner than a hair. I climbed onto the tilted machine, pressed my chisel into that line, and struck it with the heel of my hand. The claw broke. The core fell into Savina's waiting hands. The Iron Maw stopped with one arm raised above Tobin's head. The board showed a completion time of 4 minutes and 40 seconds. Our entire team remained above 30 health. For 3 breaths, the arena screens displayed the final numbers. Then 2,000 people stood. Production students beat tools against the benches, while healers and sword students shouted our names. The betting board moved us to 8th place in the Academy tournament. Hadron descended to the chamber with one boot darker than the other. He looked at the dead construct, the cracked emerald, and the viewing crystals, still transmitting his face to the city. The healing effect was not declared before the test, he said. Pelin held up his ledger. 29 identical uses were declared. The evolution occurred during the trial. Objects do not evolve skills. This one did, Austral said. The dean entered behind him with Captain Ressa and 4 faculty judges. Austral announced their decision before Hadron could speak again. The Sapphire Guard and Emerald Necklace were classified as experimental combat support. The confiscation order was overturned. Our workshop was restored. The Academy granted 50 gold from its innovation fund and materials worth another 20. Hadron had used an emergency seal after the original warning changed to human review. He had also selected an outdated Iron Maw without disclosing its monocannon. He was suspended from testing authority until the capital completed an investigation. The arena waited for the final condition of our agreement. Austral handed him the workshop key. Hadron's fingers closed around it. He walked to me before thousands of witnesses, placed the key in my palm, and faced the largest viewing crystal. Zevik's gemstone equipment has passed the Iron Maw standard, he said. Each word seemed to cost him more than our emerald. His jeweler class is recognized as combat support. The roar from the stands followed him out of the chamber. By evening, we had risen from 32nd place to 8th. Our funds had risen from 10 gold to 60, not counting Leora's emerald. My mana capacity had increased from 12 to 27 after the trial. The evolved necklace could heal 5 allies for 12 mana, but the crack allowed only 4 more activations. Power, money, and status had all increased. So had the price of failure. We ate dinner in the restored workshop. Tobin roasted 2 chickens until their skin turned crisp and gold. Braska crushed potatoes with butter and garlic. Leora glazed carrots with honey. Savina returned from somewhere with 3 loaves of hot bread and refused to explain why the baker had written his address on the bag. The chicken fell apart under a fork, and gravy soaked into the bread. The warm food made the workshop feel more like a home than the dormitory ever had. Leora sat beside me on the floor. The table still had no legs. "You repaired my mother's emerald," she said. I had reinforced the crack with a thin gold line. It looked like green glass holding a ray of sunset. "It lost some value," I said. "It saved 5 lives. Pelin will not include that in his appraisal." "Then Pelin needs a better class." Across the room, Pelin lowered his fork and looked offended. Someone knocked once on the workshop door. The door opened before anyone answered. A tall man entered in a white capital uniform. Silver chains crossed his chest. Behind him stood 20 royal officers and a black carriage bearing the crest of the Royal Skill Registry. He looked at our food, our repaired stones, and the workshop key in my hand. "I am Inspector Savrek," he said. "I came to offer Zevik 300 gold for his class." He smiled without warmth. "If he refuses, I came to remove it." Savrek placed a contract beside the roast chicken and offered to buy the one thing I could not remove from my own body. The first page promised 300 gold, a title, and a capital workshop. The next 12 explained why none would belong to me. Every gem I touched would become registry property. My team would become permanent test subjects who could be retained for an undefined period. Savannah read that sentence twice. "Undefined period means forever," she said. Savrek removed his white gloves 1 finger at a time. "It means until the work is complete. In my experience, forever is when officials finish paperwork." His officers did not smile. Savrek had narrow shoulders, clean hands, and a quiet voice. His 9 silver chains represented national relic licenses. He had arrived with more legal force than Krovan possessed fire. "You believe I want to steal your discovery?" he told me. I want to prevent a disaster. If one jeweler can give fire to a swordswoman, 10 jewelers can give forbidden spells to an army. Class rarity supports every military treaty on this continent. Then your treaties depend on a false rule. Most peace depends on rules people agree not to test. That answer told me he understood my ability better than Hadron did. It also told me the contract was not negotiable. I pushed it back across the table. No? Severick looked at the others. You refuse 300 gold for them? I refuse because you priced them as equipment. Leora's hand stopped beside her cup. For the first time, Severick's expression changed. Loyalty is expensive, he said. Not as expensive as your contract. Austral entered before the officers could move. Captain Ressa and the Academy judges followed him. The dean carried a copy of the tournament charter. Zevik's equipment has public experimental status until the tournament ends, he said. Capital authority does not override an active royal trial. Savrek read the charter. His face showed no anger, but one silver chain across his chest cracked. The trial ends tomorrow night, he said. Then return tomorrow night, Austral replied. Savrek turned to me. I will watch every match. Buy a meat pie, Sivana said. The seats are uncomfortable. He left the workshop with his officers and his contract. He also left our chicken cold. By dawn, he had closed every legal gemstone counter in the academy. A new notice stated that experimental creators could use only materials carrying a registry origin seal. Savrek's officers controlled those seals. Our request for 5 stones was rejected because my class was under investigation. The tournament quarterfinal began in 7 hours. We had 60 gold, 1 sapphire with no safe activations, and an emerald necklace with 4. Money was no longer the problem, permission was. Sivana leaned against the empty material counter. Officials are amazing, she said. They can make 60 gold less useful than a sandwich. A sandwich remains useful, Tobin said. He had brought breakfast in a covered pot. We ate on the workshop floor while considering legal crimes. The pot held rice porridge cooked in chicken stock. Tobin added slices of soft egg, fried garlic, green herbs, and small pieces of crisp skin saved from dinner. Braska passed around sesame buns glazed with honey. The porridge was hot, rich, and simple. My hands stopped shaking from the previous day's mana exhaustion. Leora sat close enough that our shoulders touched. You could still take the contract, she said quietly. Do you want me to? No. I wanted to hear whether yesterday's answer changed after sleep. It became shorter. She smiled into her bowl. Sivana returned from the back door before we finished eating. She carried a leather sack that moved by itself. Braska put down her spoon. What did you steal? Nothing. The sack jumped. What is trying to escape? Nothing alive? She opened it. 5 cloudy monster cores rolled onto the floor. One was red, one blue, one green, one brown, and one violet. Each was the size of a walnut. The city normally crushed low-grade cores into lamp powder. They held unstable mana, could not accept runes, and had no registry origin seals because the law classified them as monster organs. Sivana had purchased them from Gavik, an old jewel merchant near the East Gate. He had asked for 6 gold. She had paid 5 and convinced him that counting was a form of government control. I picked up the red core. It had crystal faces. It refracted light. It had grown inside a fire salamander, but material did not care about legal vocabulary. The system spoke. A magical core was a gemstone formed by a living owner. Death did not erase the final imprint. The hidden title Master of Magical Cores became reachable. Heat moved through my fingers. The red core remembered Ember Jet. The blue River Eel core remembered Waterlash. The green Razor Hawk core remembered Windstep. The brown Shellbore core remembered Stone Skin. The violet Storm Rat core remembered Arc Spark. 5 dead monsters had left 5 skills and 5 rejected stones. Braska slowly set down her bowl. Can you use them? If you can build a setting before noon. She stood. Move the food. The workshop became a storm of metal filings. Braska cut 5 steel sockets and mounted them around a rotating disc on a wrist guard. Only one socket could touch the central mana line at a time. I could turn the disc with my thumb, release one core, and lock the next into place. It was not elegant. It looked like someone had attached a small dinner plate to my arm and then filled it with angry candy. Palin arrived to inspect it. He stared for several seconds. I will need a new category, he said. Portable monster? Sivana suggested. No. Dinner plate of violence? Absolutely not. We tested the cores in the rear yard. Ember Jet cost 9 mana and produced 26 damage. Water Lash cost 8 and produced 22. Wind Step cost 7 and carried me 15 paces in one breath. Stone Skin cost 10 and increased my defense by 20 for half a minute. Arc Spark cost 11 and stunned a metal target for 3 seconds. My mana capacity was 27. I could not activate all 5. When I finished attuning the final core, the 5 stones pulsed together. The system recognized my first complete elemental set. My hidden lineage gained its first mastery level. My mana capacity increased by 20, from 27 to 47. That was still less than 1/4 of Vorin's mana. The captain of the capital team had 212. I could use all 5 cores once and have only 2 mana left. 3 cores already showed small cracks from testing. It was enough for one fight if every choice was correct. The quarterfinal arena opened at noon. 8,000 spectators filled the stone seats. City viewing crystals hung above every gate. Vendors sold red sugar rings labeled as forbidden skills. Children wore paper copies of Braska's Sapphire Guard. Someone had made a wooden toy of Hadron's burning boot. The world had reacted faster than the law. Our quarterfinal opponents ranked 5th. Their captain used a wind spear, and their shield fighter had 90 defense. The betting board gave us odds of 8 against 1. Savrek sat in the royal viewing box beside Austral. Krovan sat one row behind him, wearing new red armor marked with registry seals. I understood the bracket before the horn sounded. If we won, Krovan's team would be our semi-final opponent. Savrek had upgraded him. Our quarterfinal lasted 3 minutes. I used Windstep to cross beneath the enemy's spear. Sivana followed my path and took their control flag. Braska broke the shield fighter's knee guard with 2 hammer strikes. Leora scored 63 damage without elemental help. Tobin used the necklace once and restored 30 health to each of us. We won with 4 members still standing and 2 cores untouched. The crowd carried our names into the semi-final break. Our odds moved from 8 against 1 to 3 against 1. 4 craft guilds offered contracts totaling 150 gold. I accepted none before reading the small print. Savrek spoke to Krovan during the break. I could not hear the words, but I saw the red armor brighten as another registry chain was added to it. Krovan's family had spent years buying his path to the capital. If he rejected Savrek now, he lost everything. When he entered the arena, his face held no amusement. "You should have taken the offer," he told me. "Did you?" His eyes moved away for half a second. That was answer enough. The scoreboard measured his upgraded armor at 160 defense. His flame lance had risen from 59 damage to 112. His 4 teammates carried registry weapons. Their combined combat score was 418. Our natural score remained 54. The board placed the numbers side by side before 8,000 witnesses. The betting odds jumped to 100 against us. Sivana had placed 10 silver on our team before the change. She looked personally offended. I could have waited and won 100 times more. "Survive first," Braska said. The horn sounded. Krovan attacked the ground instead of us. Flames spread across the arena in a wide circle. His registry armor fed mana into it until the sand turned red. He had learned from the qualification. There would be no clear lane for Sivana and no wall for us to hide behind. The audience leaned forward. I rotated the green core into place. Windstep! 7 mana vanished. Air struck my back and carried me over the first wave of fire. I landed inside Krovan's circle. His spear fighter thrust at my chest. I turned the disc. Stone skin. The brown core locked into place. 10 mana hardened my skin under my coat. The spear hit my ribs and bent. My defense rose by 20. My health fell by only 4. The crowd shouted the first time. Braska and Leora entered behind me. Tobin activated shared men to carry them through the outer flames. Sivana stayed at the edge, waiting. Krovan pointed both hands at Leora. "Flame Lance!" His attack had 112 damage. Leora could not block it. I turned the disc to blue. Water Lash. The core released a twisting stream. It did not overpower Krovan's fire. 22 damage could not defeat 112. It did change the temperature. Steam exploded between them. The arena disappeared inside a white cloud. Krovan's targeting relic lost sight of Leora. His flame lance struck his own shield fighter and threw the man into the safety barrier. The crowd shouted a second time. Sivana moved through the steam. She could not use the exhausted sapphire, but she did not need it. She found the mana chain running from Krovan's armor to the registry control gem and cut the leather strap holding it. Savrek stood in the royal box. Kroven's defense fell from 160 to 105. Braska's hammer found him in the fog. His armor rang like a giant cooking pot. He flew 3 paces and landed on his back. The crowd shouted a third time. His fire cleared the steam. He rose with blood on his lip and aimed at me. "You are still a jeweler," he said. "Yes." "Then fight like one." "I am." I turned the disc to violet. Arc spark. 11 mana entered Kroven's metal armor. The registry seals conducted it perfectly. Every red plate flashed purple. His hair rose straight upward, his arms locked at his sides, and his flame lance fired vertically into the sky. For 3 seconds, the strongest fire student in the academy stood as stiff as an angry fork. The audience shouted a 4th time, then began laughing. I had 19 mana left. The red core needed 9. The others were empty or cracked. I rotated Emberjet into place. Kroven recovered before I could fire. He tore the damage control chain away and gathered flame around both fists. Without the registry amplifier, his attack fell to 62. It was still enough to put me below 10 health. Leora stepped between us. She had no fire ring. She had no elemental class. She had an ordinary sword and a score that had begun at 11. She struck Kroven's wrist before his spell formed. Braska hit the back of his knee. Sivana pulled his ankle from the other side. Tobin threw a sesame bun at his face. He later claimed it slipped from his pocket. No one believed him. Kroven fell forward. I released Emberjet into the sand beneath him. The blast lifted him over us, carried him across the arena, and dropped him head first into the same scoring tower from the qualification. The tower had been moved to the side as decoration. Some objects remembered skills. That tower appeared to remember Kroven. The board declared his entire team unable to continue. Our completion time was 5 minutes and 9 seconds. My remaining mana was 2. 3 monster cores broke at once and fell from the wrist guard as gray dust. 8,000 spectators rose. The combat board moved our team to 2nd place in the national first-year ranking. The tournament paid 100 gold for reaching the final. 2 guilds increased their offers, and public sponsorship raised our available funds from 60 gold to 305. Kroven's score of 418 remained above our 54, while healers pulled him from the tower. The numbers made the defeat worse, not better. Savrek walked onto the arena floor to inspect the broken cores. Every viewing crystal followed him. "Monster organs are not approved gemstones," he said. Palin held up the registry definition. "A gemstone is a naturally formed crystal capable of holding mana. Each core satisfies the definition. They lack origin seals. The law exempts monster materials from origin seals." The arena waited. Savrek had written that exemption himself to support the military core trade. Canceling it in public would invalidate thousands of registry weapons. He looked at me, the 5 empty settings, and the city crystals carrying his answer across the capital. "The equipment is illegal for this tournament," he said. The crowd repeated his words until they became a chant. That was his first public defeat. He accepted it without changing expression. Then he announced that the final would use a stricter inspection standard at dawn. Voron's capital team watched from the opposite gate. Their captain had 212 mana, 5 rare affinities, and the calm smile of a man who had never entered a fight as the weaker side. He raised one hand to me. 5 different colors burned around his fingers. I had 3 broken cores and 2 mana. That night, Tobin served dumpling soup in the workshop. The broth smelled of ginger and roasted bone. Each dumpling held pork, garlic, and green herbs. Braska toasted sesame buns over the forge. Savannah counted our winnings twice and then counted the dumplings because she trusted money more than Tobin. No one spoke about the final until the bowls were empty. Leora remained after the others slept. She carried a narrow black case. "My father ordered me to wear this during the final ceremony," she said. Inside lay an ancient silver crown. White diamonds formed leaves along its sides. At the center sat a black gemstone darker than the case around it. One clasp had broken. "Can you repair it?" she asked. I touched the silver first. Then my finger brushed the black stone. Every unbroken gem in the workshop turned toward the crown. The black gemstone beat once beneath my fingertip. A woman's voice whispered from inside it. "Keeper of skills," she said. "I remember you." The soul inside the black gemstone knew my hidden title before I had earned it. I pulled my hand away. Every gem in the workshop returned to its place, and the crown became still. My jeweler's sense could read only the outer layer. The stone was older than the kingdom, with no measurable capacity or visible limit. What moved inside was not a spell, but a complete soul. I repaired the clasp without touching the center, wrapped the crown in cloth, and locked it in Braska's strongest lead box. "Do not wear it tomorrow," I told Leora. "My father ordered me to." "Tell him," his jewelry spoke. At dawn, the sealed box was open. The crown rested on the workbench, facing the sunrise. Before we could investigate, the tournament bells rang. Savrek had moved the final inspection forward by 2 hours. The streets were full of hunters offering monster cores. Public reaction had created a market before the law had chosen a name for it. Pellin inspected 37 stones, and we bought 5 stable ones for 45 gold. They held Fire Claw, River Shield, Airblade, Ground Grip, and Chain Spark. Braska rebuilt the rotating guard. Each core had 1 safe activation, and using the full set would cost 55 mana. My capacity had risen from 47 to 60. Vorin still had 212, could combine his elements, and did not destroy them by casting. We entered the inspection hall with 5 minutes remaining. 30,000 spectators filled the grand arena, and viewing stones carried the final across the kingdom. Vorin ranked first, we ranked second, and the odds gave him 20 victories for every one of ours. Savrek stood at the center beneath the royal platform. He wore all 9 silver chains. Beside him waited King Edris, Dean Austral, Captain Ressa, and 12 national judges. Leora wore a plain silver band. Her father noticed immediately. "Where is the royal crown?" Edris asked. "Inside a lead box," she said. "It contains a demon's soul," I said. 30,000 people became silent. Leora confirmed that the stone had moved by itself, so Edris ordered 20 guards around the box until after the final. Savrek struck the floor with his inspection staff. "The final has a more immediate problem," he said. "The registry rejects Zivik's equipment. Tournament items must match the declared class of the wearer. A jeweler cannot legally equip 5 elemental skills." Red light crossed my name on the combat board. The arena erupted. Savrek continued over the noise. "The prior exemption covered monster materials. It did not authorize class impersonation. Zevik may compete without the core guard, or his team may withdraw." Vorin watched from the opposite gate without celebrating. Austral opened the tournament charter. "Embedded spell equipment has been legal for 80 years. A spell is not a skill. Your national relics contain recorded skills," I said. Savrek turned toward me. "Relics are licensed autonomous artifacts. Then test whether my gems are autonomous." 30,000 witnesses made refusal expensive. Pellin brought the national calibration stone used to license Savrek's relics. I placed the green monster core against the calibration surface. Golden words appeared above it. The owner was the gemstone itself. The core had retained Airblade as its own skill after death. It was an autonomous artifact under the registry's definition. Every viewing crystal enlarged the result. The public board removed the red line through my name. The crowd roared. Savrek's jaw tightened. "One result does not prove that human skills are copied without theft." I gave the emerald necklace to Leora and asked Tobin to stand beside her. Tobin cast Minor Mend on Braska. At the same moment, Leora activated Shared Mend through the necklace. 2 green spells appeared from the same original skill. Tobin's class remained intact. The calibration stone identified the emerald as the second owner. The judges read the results aloud. "No soul loss, no class impersonation, autonomous skill artifact." The crowd repeated it. Savrek had spent his career defining the law around relics. My gems had entered through the door he built. King Edris faced him. "Is the equipment legal under the current charter?" Savrek looked at the viewing stones and the judges waiting for his answer. "Yes," he said. The first public defeat had forced him to recognize monster cores. The second forced him to recognize every gemstone I had made. The red line vanished completely. Our odds moved from 20 against us to 12. The final horn sounded. Vorin's team moved as one body. Their shield fighter raised ice, their archer launched 6 light arrows, their healer spread a golden field, and their shadow fighter disappeared. Vorin waited with 5 colors around his hands. Our total natural score was 54. Theirs was 680. The numbers appeared over the arena. The difference drew a gasp even from people who had watched us beat Kroven. "Same plan?" Tobin asked. "No," I said. "This team has one." The arrows fell. Braska blocked 2, Leora cut 1, and Savannah avoided another. The last two reduced my health from 44 to 30 and Tobin's from 52 to 24. Vorin had spent no mana yet. The Shadow Fighter appeared behind Leora. She turned in time to protect her neck, but his blade cut her shoulder. Her health fell from 65 to 40. Braska charged the ice wall. The enemy shield fighter met her. Their weapons struck hard enough to crack the arena tiles. There was no control flag. The final ended only with surrender or when all 5 members fell below 10 health. Vorin lifted one hand. Fivefold current. Fire, water, wind, earth, and lightning twisted into one rotating sphere. The audience stopped shouting. Pelin's measuring crystal climbed past 100 damage, then 150, then 200. I could not block it with one core. I could not copy it because no empty stone could hold 5 skills. Spread out, I said. Vorin released the sphere. It struck the center of our formation and divided into 5 streams. One followed each of us. I turned the brown core into place. Ground grip. Stone rose around my boots and anchored me. The stream hit my chest. My health fell from 30 to 11. Leora dropped to 12. Braska dropped to 14. Savina dropped to 11. Tobin dropped to 10 exactly. One more point against any of us would end the final. Vorin still possessed 132 mana. The combat board predicted his victory at 99%. Some spectators lowered their flags. Tobin reached for the emerald necklace, but his hands would not close. I tore it from his collar and pressed it against the arena floor. The crack widened. Only 2 activations remained after the inspection and Tobin's first healing field. I spent 12 mana. Shared mend. Green light passed through the team. My health returned to 41. Leora rose to 42. Braska rose to 44. Savannah rose to 41. Tobin rose to 40. The arena roared. The combat prediction fell from 99% to 80. Vorin did not look surprised. I watched the Iron Maw trial. He signaled his archer. 6 more arrows rose and turned toward the emerald. Savannah stepped in front of me without her sapphire speed. I rotated the green core into place. Airblade! A curved wave broke 4 arrows and sent 2 into the ice wall. It cracked. I had 36 mana left and 4 cores. Braska, left base. She understood. Her hammer struck the crack. Leora hit the same place. The ice wall collapsed toward the capital team. Vorin raised a hand and melted it with fire. That was the first spell he used outside his 5-fold attack. It cost him 12 mana. Savina disappeared into the steam. The enemy shadow fighter followed her. Tobin threw 2 empty medicine bottles into opposite directions. One shadow moved toward the first sound. Savina moved toward the second and swept the fighter's legs from under him. Braska hit his sword. The blade broke. The audience shouted Savina's name. The capital healer raised a golden barrier around Vorin. I rotated the violet core. Chain spark! Lightning struck the broken ice, jumped through the water, and entered the healer's metal staff. The golden barrier flickered. Braska threw her hammer through it before it closed. The hammer hit the healer's chest plate. His health fell below 10. The capital team lost its first member. The prediction fell to 62%. Savrek stood motionless in the royal box. Around him, officials who had dismissed us as production students were now writing down every core change. I had 25 mana and 3 cores. Vorin grew serious. He sent Windstep through his legs and appeared in front of me. His fist struck my jaw. My health fell to 22. He followed with Stone Palm. I blocked with the metal guard, but 2 empty sockets shattered. Leora attacked his side. He caught her sword between fire-covered fingers and threw her into Braska. Both fell. His team's shield fighter pinned them beneath a second ice wall. The archer aimed at Tobin. The shadow fighter rose behind Savina with a backup knife. Vorin looked at my remaining cores. Your materials are almost gone, he said. That is why jewelers use small pieces. I activated River Shield. Blue water spread beneath the ice wall, trapping Leora and Braska, entered its cracks, and froze. Braska struck from below. The wall broke into blocks. She threw one at the archer, and Leora emerged behind it to strike him. His health dropped below 10. The prediction fell to 41%. For the first time, the capital team could lose. The entire arena saw the number change. Vorin gathered 5 colors again. He had enough mana for 1 more 5-fold current. I had 17 mana, 2 cores, and 1 damaged healing activation. Savannah's opponent cut her side. She fell to 9 health. The emergency barrier reached for her. Tobin threw himself between them. A steel pan hidden under his apron stopped the knife. Kitchen armor, he said. Savannah used the distraction to kick the shadow fighter into the water. Leora placed her sword at his throat. He surrendered. Vorin released the second fivefold current. I turned the red core into the central socket and pulled it free before it locked. Then I threw it to Leora. "Fireclaw," I said. She caught the core against the simple silver ring Braska had built that morning. The setting closed around it. Leora had begun the week with a sword strike worth 11 points. She still had no fire affinity. The gemstone did. She activated Fireclaw, 5 red blades wrapped around her sword. She cut into Vorin's rotating sphere from the side. I used my final brown core. Ground grip! Stone caught the earth stream and anchored it. Braska struck the lightning stream with her hammer. The metal carried it into the wet arena. Tobin raised the cracked emerald and spent its final activation to keep us standing. Fivefold current separated. Vorin's greatest skill became 5 weaker spells. Leora cut through the fire. Braska broke the earth. Savannah avoided the wind. Tobin endured the water. The lightning entered my stone armor and drove me to one knee. My health stopped at 10. The brown core turned to dust. Vorin had no mana left, neither did I. He drew his sword. I drew my jeweler's hammer. His strength measured 31. Mine measured 11 after 5 days of combat growth. I did not meet his blade. I struck the silver clasp holding his 5 affinity gems. It was a beautiful piece of work. It was also designed to resist magic, not a small hammer placed exactly on its weakest pin. The clasp opened. 5 gems fell into the water. Sivana collected all of them before they reached the floor. Vorin looked at his empty setting. Then he looked at the 3 teammates still standing around him and the 2 below 10 health behind him. He lowered his sword. "We surrender," he said. The arena fell silent. The combat board changed our rank from second to first. Then 30,000 people shouted at once. Flags filled the air. Bells rang across the capital. Viewing stones showed distant crowds standing on tables while hunters raised monster cores outside the academy. Vorin shook my hand before the healers reached us. "Your natural score was 54, he said. "It is 61 now." "That does not make this better." "It was not intended to." He laughed and helped me stand. The tournament awarded us 1,000 gold. 5 craft guilds offered a research contract worth 300 gold each week while leaving the stones with me. I accepted after Savannah read every line. My mana capacity remained 60. My personal strength remained far below Vorin's. Our evolved healing necklace had broken, and all 5 new cores were spent or damaged, but our team held the national first-year rank. Our available funds rose above 1,200 gold after costs. Every city had witnessed a jeweler distribute 5 elements, speed, and healing without stealing a single soul. Savrek waited on the award platform with the champion's medal. King Edris stood beside him holding the registry contract Savrek had filed at the academy. The page naming Leora and the others as permanent test subjects had been marked in red. "You attempted to claim royal citizens before proving a crime," the king said. "You also attempted to alter a royal trial after it began." Savrek looked at the audience and understood that no quiet interpretation remained. Edris removed the 9 silver chains from his uniform. "Your authority is suspended pending public review. Complete your final duty." Savrek faced me before 30,000 witnesses and the National Viewing Network. He placed the medal around my neck. "Zevik, jeweler of the Royal Academy, is the national first-year champion," he said. "His gemstone skill equipment is recognized as legal combat support." The same man who had offered 300 gold for my class had publicly made it impossible to confiscate for that price. The system spoke beneath the roar of the crowd. I had completed the first hidden ascension. I was now a keeper of skills. That evening, we returned to the workshop instead of attending the palace banquet. Tobin cooked beef slowly with onions, mushrooms, pepper, and dark ale until the sauce became thick enough to hold on bread. Braska roasted potatoes in the forge oven. Sivana brought an apple tart with a crisp sugar top and, for once, produced a receipt. Leora divided the tart into 6 pieces. "There are 5 of us," Braska said. "The 6th is for the person who paid." Sivana pulled the receipt closer. "A fair monarchy." We ate until the workshop became quiet. Outside, people were still chanting our names. Inside, butter melted into hot potatoes, beef fell apart under a spoon, and cinnamon rose from the apple filling. 5 days earlier, I had owned 3 copper and a broken ruby. Now I had a team, a home more than 1,000 gold, and a national title. Leora rested her head against my shoulder for 1 silent minute. Then every lamp went out. The lead box opened by itself. The ancient crown rose into the air. Its black gemstone pulsed, and every ruby, sapphire, emerald, diamond, and monster core in the capital answered with the same beat. Dark light filled the workshop. A woman appeared inside the stone. She wore broken armor and a crown made of horns. Her eyes opened slowly. The system identified the impossible imprint as Asmara, the former queen of demons, and said her soul was awake. She looked through the gemstone directly at me. "At last," she whispered, "a king of gems has opened my prison." Across the capital, every gemstone turned black.